Hello, friends. Welcome to Kitchen Party. It's a festive edition of Kitchen Party, in which Jared is going to be preparing, that's right, fruitcake. Love it, hate it. Most people seem to have opinions on it. We'll find out what everyone's opinions are and why they hold them, and we'll talk about many other interesting things over the next couple of hours. So I hope you are able to stay and perhaps participate in the chat. Let's see who we have around today. Sorry, let me just unmute everyone and then do this. Hello.
Hello.
All right. Actually, I will start by going around and getting everyone to say hi quickly and introduce themselves, and then we'll go over to Jared, and he will explain what he's going to be doing, what the fruitcake process is. But first of all, actually, let me just do that. Play the musical Hollywood squares.
The rules are changing. Everything's different.
Oh, everything is confusing. Oh my god.
Where are we?
This is like, Chris, I'm sorry, I've made you dizzy. I've given you motion sickness. You want to? Would you like to say hi and introduce yourself to the people?
Hello, I'm Chris. Are we supposed to say a little bit about ourselves? Is that what we're doing?
A little brief hello and a little bit about yourself.
So hi,
you'll have lots of time to get more into it, but
oh yeah, I do a lot of million different things over the course of my life. It's been a long, hard life. I've come to share a little bit about that with you. But also, I wanted to make sure you know that I am pro fruitcake. More on that later.
Yes. Abigail, what is your position on the fruitcake issue?
You know, I'm sorry to say I have never eaten one. So
wow.
I am not sure that I have an opinion one way or another, which makes me a true tabula rasa. Quite exciting.
I can mold you.
You can mold me like a dough.
Like a fruitcake.
Like a nice dough. And yes, it's nice to be here with everyone. This is my first kitchen party. And I'm so delighted to have this chance to see everyone in their Hollywood squares, which actually we do roughly every week because Lainie very kindly organized a Pictionary group, and that's how I know everyone. I haven't yet met any of you in person yet, but I love playing Pictionary with these guys every Tuesday, and more on that later. And it's actually a shared love of Harpo Marx that brought us together.
Yeah. Really, what kind of monster doesn't like Harpo Marx?
Subhuman cretin doesn't like Harpo Marx.
Lainie, hello.
Hello. I was going to say this is my first kitchen party, but I feel like maybe 2020, wasn't there a kitchen party New Year's Eve? And I did a little...
It was on Christmas itself. You were on the Goose episode.
The pilot, as it were.
That was the pilot. It was so much fun because remember carolers, like the only carolers in the house all day. We took you outside to the carolers. So I'm Lainie, and I like these people, and I have only met Nadia in person. Everyone else is a square, a Pictionary square to me. And I'm a baker. I love baking, but I've never made a fruitcake. How do I feel about fruitcake? I can't say I have positive feelings about fruitcake, but I don't have strong negative feelings. And you know what I did? I kind of lumped fruitcake into my Panettone box. Like if you call it Panettone, I'm pro. If you call it fruitcake,
they're different. They're different.
I know, but I'm like bread instead of fruitcake.
It's like bread with fruits in it. So I don't know. I feel like if Jared made it, I would like it. So I just need the right fruitcake in my life. I make music. I make cookies. I make Christmas lights. My whole apartment is Christmas lights. You can tell at the moment. I put them up everywhere.
Why am I not surprised you get right into the whole holiday thing?
So into it. Yeah, I'm gonna make a little autobiography called "The Jew Who Loves Christmas" because I am the Christmassiest person I know. And
well, I'm gonna have to learn from you because I haven't developed the taste for it yet.
Well, we can talk to it.
You know what our British friends call them?
Yeah.
Fairy lights.
Fairy lights.
I love fairy lights as a name for them. Yeah. And I can... Yay.
Just clap for Tinkerbell.
Yeah, that's right. Clap for my apartment. Clap.
Hey, Mikey.
Hey, Mikey.
Hey, Edward.
Hello.
I almost call him Nedward all the time. I'm sorry to interrupt. When we're recording an episode of By the Bywater, I'm always like, if he says something that I want to yell at him for, I'm always like, Nedward, but I never say it. I should say it.
Nedward is such a good name. I love it.
It's not Ned's name, but it is a good name.
No.
Someone should be named Nedward.
Lainie, I have to say, in support of you being the Jew who loves Christmas, in my religiously diverse immediate family, probably the person most enthusiastic about Christmas is my dad, the one practicing Muslim. So,
See, I think it's the folks who maybe weren't raised with it, who like, you know what I mean? Like the immigrant is even more patriotic. Like, oh, I'm just like, I didn't grow up with Christmas. I didn't really do it until I went to college. So it's like, oh, give me every elf and every cookie and every fir tree with lights on it. Give me all of it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have, let's see if I can, boom, yes. Hello, Jared. Introduce yourself and explain what's going on. Explain yourself.
I'm Jared, and I'm going to adjust my camera really fast. Yes, I host Kitchen Party, and I host By the Bywater, a Tolkien podcast on the Megphonic Network. And my feelings about fruitcake are sort of similar, weirdly enough, to Lainie's about Christmas, where I didn't grow up with it and then became the fruitcake person. So, yeah, that's
the zealotry of the
history.
Convert.
Yeah. So we never had it growing up. We always heard jokes about it because at some point in American history, it became the butt of jokes. And then I was always interested in it because it's cake. And I love baking. I was like, oh, that sounds good. And then one year, Martha Stewart put out an issue of her magazine that had an entire article about fruitcake. And I was like, Mom, can I make that?
How old were you?
Not old enough to handle alcohol, so she said no.
To have your own subscription to Martha Stewart.
Yes, this was my mother's Martha Stewart magazine.
Oh, I see.
So when I was old enough to buy sherry for myself, I started making this specific recipe, and I've been making it every year since it's got to be at least a decade now.
So this is Jared's traditional personal fruitcake recipe. Have you made alterations to the recipe that you started out with? Have you tweaked it and made it your own?
Yeah. So the first couple times I made it, I was too poor to buy a lot of candied citrus peel. And making your own is kind of difficult. So I didn't do difficult for me. It didn't turn out well the first time I tried it. So I haven't done it since. But so what I did was fill in the gaps with like golden raisins, which I couldn't find this year because of the supply chain. So now I've got a ton of candied citrus peel.
They only have silver raisins this year.
Bronze if you're lucky. So the only alteration that I personally have made is adding raisins to it because it's just nuts and citrus peel in the original. So that's my fascinating tale about that.
Do you soak the raisins in rum in advance or anything like that?
No.
Is there anything it has to be? No.
So when does the alcohol come into play?
So you add some during the mixing process, which you will see.
Oh, yeah.
And then once it's baked, you immediately pour a bunch of sherry on it.
Yes.
And then weekly, give it another little bath.
Like a chia pet.
Like a chia pet. Almost exactly. It's not supposed to sprout anything. If it does that,
that's bad.
You've actually fucked up. So, you're supposed to do it every week. You're supposed to actually make this a month in advance to let the flavors develop. And typically, I would have done that by now, but I was saving it for this.
It actually gets weekly watering with alcohol for an entire month.
Yeah.
How long can you keep it going? Like, could you have a year-old fruitcake?
Yeah. So a glimpse to the future for everybody. Since you can't really cut into it right out of the oven, it's going to be about that because that's to bake for over an hour. So I got to get started on it actually. I do have a year-old one that I will sample instead of cutting into the fresh one.
A year-old.
Yeah. It gets interesting after a year.
Have you been feeding it every week for the last year?
No, but it was in the freezer. So
Okay.
it's fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been
okay.
cryogenically frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll get to see the whole unmummification process that happens when you cut into one that's been sitting around. So yeah, you'll get the full experience.
So do we know if the history of this is kind of medieval or something? Like it seems like something you would eat in some 13th century freezing castle. Something that won't go bad. It's not going to get bugs in it. It's like a clod of food.
A clod of food.
Sorry, that's not flattering.
I love it. I love it.
It's built to last.
It is very dense.
Built to last.
It is dense.
Yeah.
It is clod-ish in a good way.
Yeah.
It dates from ancient Rome.
Oh, ancient Rome. See, I knew.
Hey, Rebecca. We're already talking about mummified food. You knew.
I have a baking question. Is it similar to a marzipan stollen? That's my favorite Christmas baked good. That's a German thing.
That's
a bread, right?
Stollen, but
it's possible that stollen is similar to a panettone, but I don't think I've had that. But it has this big core of marzipan running through the middle.
That's a yeasted bread. So fruitcake, not marzipan. Fruitcake is an actual cake. It's like butter, eggs, flour. There's no yeast in it.
I see.
And there's actually no leavening agent at all, which is why it's so dense, and that's part of why it keeps so well.
Not to go Jewish for a second, but that means we could make it for Passover.
Oh, out of matzah meal?
Like you could use matzah meal and no leavening.
That's a great idea.
Done.
Really could. Yeah.
And you can make it a year in advance and then just pull it out the night of the Seder.
Every Passover, a miracle again. Oh.
I have one Facebook friend who makes her Christmas cake every year in June and sort of posts about that. And then just kind of like feeds it some booze. And it's not always sherry. I think it's when I've done it, it's usually rum. And I think you can also use whiskey. It just has to be the hard
brandy,
liquor.
rum, whiskey.
Yeah.
I've seen a recipe that involves stout, actually.
I'm
So
all about
gonna do the
that.
traditional, like taking off the fancy garment in order to do
That's
anything.
right.
Oh my gosh! I just saw
I
Chris's
put a link in the
for
private chat here, and I'll put it in the
Passover
public chat.
fruitcake.
For Passover fruitcake. Somebody's
a
already
thing.
gone
Oh,
and
there
done
you
it
go.
and made
Oh my god!
matzah meal instead of
brilliant.
flour fruitcake.
There is nothing new
To
under
the-
the
I could get into
processed
this.
ham.
It looks
You're a little bit
terrible.
off-center with it. That looks like
Slash amazing.
The secret ingredient is potato starch.
Ooh, potato starch.
So far in the cake can we have pecans and butter. I see an orange.
Yeah.
I see various pre-measured flours and things.
It's a little
Yes.
mild torture to not be able to smell this. As you
I
go.
know.
Oh, it smells so good. It smells so good.
Even
the
just
first-
looking at that zester, I'm like, damn, look at that.
The first
we
step.
could-
This is like a fun baking tip. When you're putting, I say fun, it's actually just whatever. When you're putting fruit or nuts or whatever in a cake or a bread, make sure you coat them in flour before you mix them in anything, and then they won't sink to the bottom. So that's why I'm doing this first and not mixing anything, so I can get everything coated.
Because it's kind of sticky, and then it like sort of catches in there when it goes into the dough.
Yeah, it adheres to the rest of the batter.
That's one of those instructions that I always ignore because unless it says why you have to do it, like if it says
you're like,
toast flour for you, it's like I'm not. That sounds fussy. But if it's like if you explain that it keeps the fruit from sinking to the bottom, then I will pay attention.
Yeah, and it doesn't make a huge difference with something as dense as fruitcake, but for something lighter that actually has a leavening agent like baking powder or whatever, then you probably should.
Mm-hmm. So Jared, we're gonna what's gonna happen? What are the next steps?
So once I coat it in flour, you guys can start talking to each other in a minute. But once I coat this in flour, I'm going to start mixing the butter and sugar together, and I'm going to mute for that because it's really loud.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I need a snack for that. I'm gonna get so hungry looking at butter. 1 second.
I know. Butter. Is there a lot of what's the bulk of work with this? Is it a lot of like chopping and preparing all the different fussy little ingredients, or?
If you're not candying your own citrus peel, most of it is just tracking everything down.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. That's what I was going to ask you. What is the full range of fruits and things? Is it just like candied peel and so you didn't get the golden raisins, but
I didn't.
What else is in there?
This is literally just going to be nuts and candied lemon peel and candied citron peel.
Wow.
Okay.
But I'm sure people have seen it made with cherries. You can put
Yeah.
You can put just about anything in here. Pineapple.
Any candied fruit. Yeah.
Any candied or
really
dried.
Good. Yeah.
It shouldn't be fresh, or it'll make it all gushy and weird.
It'll ruin the party for everyone.
Yes.
Right around this time of year, my mom often makes candied pomelo peel.
Ooh,
that's really special.
That sounds.
It's delicious and it smells incredible. And it was something that she found, makes nice little Christmas gifts and that kind of thing, Hanukkah gifts. So yeah, people don't think to do that because, you buy a pomelo and it's like this big and then there's this much fruit in it. And then people just toss this thing, but actually the peel is the best part.
So for comparison's sake, I decided to get a light fruit cake made in Nova Scotia, proudly Canadian.
Yeah.
It's got, let's see how this compares. It's got flour, raisins, papaya, orange peel, sugar, lemon peel, cherries, and some preservatives and some colorants. Some more cherries, whole eggs, water, canola oil, sugar, soybean oil, glycerin. I hope you're adding glycerin, Jared.
I, in fact, am not.
Whey powder, that's for gains.
Yeah.
Vinegar. I wonder what that's doing there. Salt, sodium, acid, pyrophosphate. I think that's
maybe
so
the
you can set it
vinegar
on
interacts
fire.
with the baking soda
Baking
or something.
soda.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's true. Sodium bicarb,
Pyro?
spices, sodium propionate. I don't know what that does. Mono and diglycerides.
Spices.
There's a bunch of other little random stuff. Tetrazine. Make sure you've got your tetrazine. Tartrazine. Rum Antilles Gel Natural. Huh. And a few other things. And there's corn syrup on the topping. And yeah.
Rum
So I'm gonna
gel.
give that a try. So I
I'm
can
all
enjoy.
down for rum gel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the rum gel is. It's made with rum, water, ethyl alcohol, and modified cellulose. Guess you can make that at home.
Delicious and nutritious.
Chris, on a tech note, I'm getting a tech note from Twitch view. Oh, there we go. Now we're live. Apparently, we may have cut out for a minute there.
That happens. I haven't been monitoring it in the background, but
if anyone is watching on Twitch, we sometimes drop and then come back. We're back. Please stay around. All right. So while Jared is doing that, that's gonna we're back. If we were gone. I hope people are able to watch this. we did have a bunch of guests, and now it's saying that we don't. But anyway, moving right along. Here we go. Oh yes,
you were
only
for a
gone
few
30
seconds.
seconds. Is what? Okay. Yes, you were gone. Yes, you're back. Okay, if that happens again, don't panic. Just hang in there.
Yeah, that sometimes happens.
Twitch does that sometimes. Apparently.
You only missed 30 seconds of Chris reading the list of chemicals that go into a commercial fruitcake.
It was pure genius, though, like a poem.
What we've
It was a
established
poem.
is that Jared's fruitcake is traditional and pure, and
Yes.
Chris's is new and
Full of
high tech, full of chemicals.
Look, it's
Molecular
colorful, though.
gastronomy. Wow.
It does
Ooh,
look
those
good.
Green
colors.
bits, red bits,
Yeah.
and you can see how
Okay.
it's like cakey
That
rather
makes
than
me-
pentatone.
I'm just gonna say, colors like that make me not want to eat it.
Yeah.
It's a little-
the
yeah.
green cherries.
The
I'm
green
not.
Oh,
Why?
I think
This
that's what
was
they call
the
tutti
cheapest
frutti.
one I could find.
right.
Fruitcake. That's another good reason to make fruitcake at home. Is it's pricey to buy, although it also the ingredients also do add up if you buy them at home.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's not a very
If
good
you-
one.
No. It's kind of hard to see, but if you all the citrus peel is now like separate
I'm
rather
gonna.
than
Oh
glommed
yeah.
together,
Oh.
and that's how it should be to incorporate
Oh,
better. Also, it means it
right.
won't be like all chunked together in weird lumps.
Yeah,
Oh,
I see what you
dude.
mean. Not only does it not sink to the bottom, but it also doesn't like glom together with
Yeah.
itself. Yeah. Cool. All right.
This is already the best
Um,
fruitcake I've ever seen.
Lainie, are you ready? Because I'm going to put you in the big screen.
Me?
Hot seat time.
I'm just eating hummus. Don't mind me.
We encourage snacking on this stream. Actually, if you wanna eat your hummus, I can start with Chris. But
No, go for it. Go for it.
okay.
I'm not eating anything.
No.
Well, like I said, food. It's a food safe space here. Lainie, hello. You were the person who introduced us all via the fun drawing game.
Oh, well, an honor and a privilege to be here with you people on Kitchen Party.
So I was like, where do I begin talking about Lainie? With the many things that she does. Oh, you baked something amazing and festive, and I'm gonna pop it on the screen because you put it on your
I bet I know what you're gonna
Look at this,
do.
look at this.
Yeah!
Wow.
Oh, I want to try those so
Roses.
bad.
Made
They're
out of apples.
stupidly easy. Like, if you've never baked before, this is a great place to start because it's the easiest thing in the world that looks so impressive.
It really does, yeah.
Is it made with like Pillsbury dough biscuits that come in a tube?
No, but it's like one step up from that. I got there's like special fancy happy product butter puff pastry, and you like roll out the butter puff pastry and you cut it in strips, and then you put your favorite combination of like jams and curds and whatever. You smush it on top, and you cut. This is actually the trickiest part. You have to cut just the right thinness of apple slices and then microwave them a bit in lemon water so that they're malleable enough to be rolled, but firm enough so that they don't crumble. That's the real challenge, to know your own microwave. It's like knowing your own soul. Know thy microwave. But I figured it out. And then fun fact is the byproduct of this recipe gets you the tastiest kind of apple lemonade. For Thanksgiving, I gave everyone the pink apple lemonade that came from making the roses the right consistency in the lemon water. Yeah. Then drink the water. Pro tip. Pro tip. I love the scrolling pro. I want my life. I want you to follow me around and have like Lainie's pro tip.
This is the fun thing about having Chris on the stream is he like knows all the little tech hacks to make fun things happen.
You're a treasure. A treasure. Yeah.
Anyway, so that looked delicious. So you're on the holiday baking already.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was there. I'm never off the holiday.
You never really left.
I stay solidly on the train year round.
You need to show off that mug. That's so good.
This is my everyday mug.
Oh my god!
So
that's your daily driver. That's
my
so good.
Daily mug. She's the best. She makes me want to do anything. She makes me get out of bed. As I look at her, I think of the songs.
Jess says, "I love these pro tips. Somehow this stream became edutainment." Yeah, right.
Sort of what I do.
It was supposed to be originally, and the edu part kind of went away.
I'm getting a lot of pro tips. I don't know about you folks.
As long as we're providing the tainment, that's really,
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, amazingly, in between the epic baking that Lainie does, you do a lot of other things, most of which are involving music. I don't know, where do you want to start with the things you do? How did we meet this summer? You could tell us that.
How did we what? Oh, how did we meet?
Yeah,
we met in person. In meatspace, as I'm trying to get folks to call it. There's cyberspace and meatspace. Because I have a personal little problem with like the in-person things and the cyber things. Because I like, look at this cyber thing. I love being with you people. This is great. And there's something about, especially when my students say, no, let's do this in person, that makes it seem like physically in the same space is just inherently always better and preferable than this. And I'm trying to be like, no, I mean, sometimes being in your pajamas at home and with people is also good. Anyway, so I call it meatspace. We met in meatspace when my partner, Yasha Narvison, who's in the other room working and loves you people, he and I went on tour. We went on COVID-friendly tour. So we're both musicians. We both are electronic musicians, and I'm a vocalist, and he does various things with different instruments, and we drove around playing our friends' backyards because we are both very COVID conservative, but we also were itching to travel and make music and see friends again. So we drove, I think at the end it was a total of 2,000 miles we drove around over the course of 3 months, staying different places where we could stay, and then just wonderful friends. Una Fraser was our fabulous friend in Toronto who has a gorgeous yard, and we played in her yard for a small, merry collection of socially distant people outdoors. And it made us feel both, replenished that we could see friends and make music, but then also responsible that we, in the midst of pandemic times, weren't smushing all our people in a room. It was that's really part of what I do.
It was a really, it was, I loved it. It was a magical experience. How would you describe the music that you and Yasha make?
Well, just recently, after I chew my fresh and fluffy pita, just recently, I like to describe it because we kind of are both in the same pocket, kind of experimental electronic music. But the way I like to distinguish between what we do is I kind of get sounds and thoughts and things in my head, and then I figure out the tools that can make those things. Whereas he's way more of a tinkerer and he loves finding new tools. So he finds new tools and he's like, ooh, what can I make with those things? That's, I think, the biggest difference in the music that we make. So the music that Yasha makes is he's just kind of a wizard of learning new things. So he'll find some new software or coding technique or, I don't know, physical phenomenon about his particular keyboard or whatever. And then he'll run with it and he'll make amazing music. So the set that he toured with over the summer, he had these setups where he had feedback. So he had the sound that he was making pour back into a microphone within the software he was using, which poured into new effects out in the world and then back into microphones. And he just played with feedback. Everything for these hour-long sets was all the feedback from single sounds that he would put into the system. So, I mean, you know, he's a wizard and a beautiful man. And then I'm a little more traditional. I had a bunch of songs that I made. You know, big Jew. I was inspired by a lot of Torah heroines, and I wrote some like indie rock Bible songs, which sounds kind of like Christian rocky when I say it out loud. I don't think it's like that.
Christian rock for Jews.
Christian rock for Jews. It's not. I don't think it occupies the same space. Not that I have anything against those Christian rock folks, but I was influenced by folks like Massive Attack and Tune Yards and, you know, Alvin Lucier. It was way more in that universe. Sufjan vibes. I mean, I should be so lucky.
True. Yeah,
Thank you.
Not wrong.
Also, R.I.P. Alvin Lucier.
R.I.P. Alvin Lucier. Yeah, folks don't know his music. Check it out. He just passed at, I think he was 90, 91.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So he's on my mind a few days ago, and he made a lot of pieces based on basic electronic music psychoacoustic principles, and they're beautiful and fun and mind-bendy and puzzly. And Lucier is Lucier, and there's tons of online tributes and stuff and playlists if you want to check him out. But yeah, he's a big looming presence in my life. And Laurie Anderson, like I'm singing and doing electronic stuff.
That's true. Yeah.
I love her. So
how'd that go over? Tell me about like what were some of the highlights of playing in people's backyards around the country? Like how do people react? Were there any?
Yeah, how did people react? Well, I mean, a couple of dogs fell asleep. I think that was maybe my greatest joy, that I put some dogs to sleep in a yard. Let's see, a baby cried. This starts to sound like an 80s song, like dogs slept, a baby cried. It's
like the Talking Heads or something.
Yeah.
Or in fact, Laurie Anderson.
You know what was fun? I almost always play for people I know. I mean, I knew almost everyone in the Toronto crowd, and that's so satisfying. Just to, you know, there was a part in one of the songs where I'm referring to mothers, like calling out the mothers, and you know, a woman who's sort of like a second mother to me. My Aunt Ramona, she was in the audience, and I got to sort of point to her when doing that song. And that's a lot of the energy I get is, you know, performing to small crowds of people I know. But our one in Baltimore, I actually knew almost nobody in the crowd. It was maybe our biggest crowd, and I knew only one or two people. And it was especially coming out of quarantine, where meeting no new people, just seeing lots and lots of people who didn't know me have a fresh reaction to my music without reacting at all to my personality or what they knew about me. And everyone was like, wow, that's really dark. Oh, that's really intense. Oh my God. I got to be like, yeah, it's fun. I am like a bit of a goofball, cozy fan of a person. But yeah, it was fun to just hear these people be like, wow, it was really intense. Yeah. If you don't know me, the music gets, I think, even darker because it's not tempered by having had conversations with me. And so that was kind of fun for me, just seeing like, oh yeah, it's as intense as I felt about the songs. I usually don't get that dark intensity back, but playing for people who didn't know me, I think this is my guess, but I think because they didn't know me, they expressed more darkness about the music than other folks.
Interesting. That's what they were getting out of it.
Yeah.
People who knew you were like, oh, there's Lainie again.
There's Lainie like
there's
hitting
songs
stuff
about like
and yelling.
the tragedy of the
Yeah.
women of Flora.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Your whole thing is now kind of reminding me of one of those of like bands like Belle and Sebastian that do like really jangly, happy sounding pop music, and then you listen to the lyrics and they're all like,
you're like,
domestic violence,
oh,
murder,
no, yeah.
alcoholism.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you're just kind of dancing along, you don't really. It seems
like
really bubbly.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I have that experience all the time too, because I'm terrible at listening to lyrics. It's the last thing I listen for, even though now, for me, I care about my lyrics so much, but I'm horrible. I'm the one dancing to Belle and Sebastian going, yeah, bright, happy, awesome, yay.
This song is about a teenage girl whose mom is dying of cancer.
Yay! Ba, ba, ba. Yeah.
And then people will think it's a Christmas song, and it's great.
It's
Lainie, do you have like a band camp or something that people who want to hear your stuff can listen to?
Great question. I have a SoundCloud and I have a Vimeo. I'm waiting for a Bandcamp. I'm coming out with an album in the next few months. So I thought that would be my splashy. Look at my new Bandcamp page. Because I really believe in Bandcamp. I love them.
They're super great.
But so far.
What is your SoundCloud then?
Let me get some links. I'm also the worst at having any of my own information ready to go. Hold on. I'm like, I make music. You don't need to listen. Yeah.
Well, while you're doing that,
myself.
Literally, I'm
people Google your
searching
name.
myself.
You do have a pretty Google friendly name. So
That's true. That is true.
You're not going to get like a wave of Lainie Pfeffermans if you Google you. I really enjoyed your outdoor concert with Jasha, and the amazing thing about it was that you were out on this actually like huge Una's house has this huge front lawn, and so we were in fact out on the front lawn, but it's it's a quiet neighborhood, and I mean your music isn't loud, so we weren't disturbing the neighbors, but it's like it's kind of mellow again if you the lyrics perhaps not, but and then Jasha's is very atmospheric, and so it was this sort of this very atmospheric, quiet, thoughtful music. And then there were all these sounds like the wind in the trees and a streetcar, 3 blocks away, and birds chirping around us. And it was all kind of like blending together into one sonic experience that had no borders. And it was just, that was, I was like, all electronic music should be played outside. New rule.
I mean, definitely Yasha's music, I think. He hadn't played outside before the summer, and I think it did radically important things to him. Like he, I think is the first to say now, oh yeah, my music should live outside. It should be outside. Because he reacted so strong. Yeah, exactly. The wind, the birds, he fed it all into his brain mush that made, because his was an improv set. So he got to react very instantly to things that he heard. My set, not so much. My set, there was basically no improvisation. So I couldn't, it was cool being outside, but I've done that set, in clubs and concert halls and stuff. And it changes, of course, by like acoustics of the space. I performed the songs that you heard, right before pandemic. I performed it in sort of this big marble box of a room. So everything was giant and resonant. And I put 4 subwoofers around the space. And it was just like very, very imposing.
Chris has found and popped into the
the Vimeo, and
Vimeo.
I'm gonna find that SoundCloud because you so sweetly asked. I see there's weirdly some stuff from my teaching life that crept in there, but everything.
Oh yeah.
But everything else is.
So speaking of your teaching life, I want to bring it up because I found one of the other things that I know you for is creating the most amazing visuals and posters and flyers for things. And I was quickly like going through the social media trying to find a good example. And do you remember this one?
It's one of my favorites.
They do it on BMX.
Oh, LVBMX. Yeah, I was the weirdo of that conference. That was a Beethoven's birthday conference with like scholars and very refined concerts and things. And they asked me to curate an event, and I was like, LVBMX. I just thought that would be my contribution. Kids made amazing remixes too. A bunch of unbelievably talented undergrads made gorgeous Beethoven remixes, which I wish I could link to, but my college really is weird about archiving performances, so I think there's no evidence of it on the web, but it was, take it from me, it
happened?
was inspiring what the kids are doing.
It sounds a little like Ludwig van or something by Mauricio Kagel, or some of these kind of remixes of Beethoven's music for the 1970 bicentennial, where, you know, these kind of plucky West German avant-garde composers were trying to be anti-authoritarian. But the weird thing about Kagel, though, that's an example, just for those who haven't seen this, it's a wild, strange, surreal art film about which I have much to say and which I won't talk about now. And then he also turned it into a piece of music, sort of. But the piece is that he took bits and pieces of Beethoven's scores and papered an entire room in them and all the furniture and everything. And then as he pans across in the film, people are supposed to play what the notes that they see. Turns into this just strange constellation of bits and pieces of, you know, Beethoven remix. And the weird thing about Kagel is that all seems kind of plucky and sort of anti-Beethovenian, but then when you really look closely at the film, it's actually all kind of strangely and surprisingly affectionate for Beethoven and more cynical about his legacy. So maybe I see a little of that in this project too.
I mean, well, the most revealing thing in what you just said is it's pronounced Kagel and not Kegel, which I've definitely been saying my whole
Mauricio Kegel.
Like your Kegel exercises. Mauricio Kegel. Kagel. Well, now I know.
He had a sense of humor. He probably would have appreciated it.
Hopefully he would have been fine. But yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, you know, it's weird that actually I'd say the pieces the students made were very reverential. Like I expected a lot of like cheeky, but it was it used a lot of kind of, there was one that was dub, like it was very much in the genre of dub music, but Beethoven's Fifth, which actually made tons of sense, like with all the repetition of the motive, having it be these dub delay lines was, I thought, super smart and amazing. Sorry, I'm distracted by amazing cake.
I'm just, every now and then I'll just kind of, if something interesting is happening on the cake cam,
oh my God,
highlight
it's fabulous.
that.
With the artisanally placed citrus. If this was an Instagram account, Jared, I mean, your Instagram account couldn't get better, but if it had an artisanally placed lemon and orange.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, I didn't even notice those in the corner. Oh my God.
They're so perfect.
So artful, yeah.
God.
Are you, Jared, did you use a coffee bean for this as you are wont to do? Or no, coffee, vanilla bean as opposed to vanilla?
I did not.
Yeah. Is there vanilla in it?
No.
Really?
Most fruitcakes are older than the popularity of vanilla.
True. And it's got all that alcohol. Oh, no. It's trying to get away.
It happens. You can see how dense this is. Like,
yeah.
That's part of how it got its reputation, is that if you're not careful, it can be very, very dense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fruitcake also became really popular in early America, like colonial era America, because candied fruits became much more available. And so...
Yeah, there's this whole, as I'm sure Chris was about to say, the cheapness of sugar produced by slave labor meant that candied fruit was much more readily available, which meant things like this were easier.
It's not just fruitcake.
No, it's not. But like, that's why candied fruit was suddenly.
Yeah. I think we talked about this even on the last kitchen party. The whole the sudden rise of sugar in the Western world, and
that's part of
colonialism.
Yeah, one of the sort of dark undercurrents of fruitcake is that it was super popular also in like the Victorian era, and it incorporated a ton of things that were impossible to get without having an empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like
spices.
Pineapple or whatever. Yeah,
pineapple.
Spices.
Yeah,
just like those Midwestern fruit jello things. It had things from around the world like pineapple and so forth in it. Are you going to be icing your your fruitcake?
No.
Okay, because for comparison, I went out and bought a fruitcake, and this one is marzipan iced fruitcake. Yeah. Sure. I mean, yeah. So I just want to give that a try to see how it compares. It does have pineapple in it. So this is definitely one of the Empire Builder ones.
Yeah, this one is not iced. You can obviously ice them. You can put royal icing on them if you really want to. I don't, because I'd hate that. But
wow, it's so thick and stodgy.
Here we go. Here we go. Chris, hold it up again.
Oh,
Sorry,
sure.
I was quick enough.
It's
Here we go.
log.
Yes.
It's log.
I mean, it looks.
Oh my god.
It looks like a fruitcake.
This is dense fruitcake.
Oh,
Yes.
You can
Doors
make a
up.
wall
This.
with that
Yeah,
fruitcake.
that's right. Building material.
It's a percussion instrument, is what
Yeah.
that is.
But the sound of the cellophane opening, that's the sound of fruitcake to me. Is that like crack?
Oh my gosh.
Just a daintier slice this time.
Okay.
Let's see how it compares. Well done. The icing's very strong.
Mm.
Is it like strong almondy flavor?
It's really sweet.
Okay.
Oh, there's the
You
almond.
look
Okay, it takes a
thrilled.
long time for the
Oh.
sugar to pass so that you can get that nice hit of marzipan. That's pretty good. Actually, I mean, this is better than the first one I tried.
Really? Okay. Chris is taste testing, so we don't have to.
This one's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, this is perfectly acceptable store-bought fruitcake.
Okay. That's good to know.
It has flavors.
While we're doing that, Abigail, I'm gonna switch to you.
Oh, sure.
Say hello.
Yeah, this is great because for a little while Lainie was talking, I was accidentally muted and had been chatting along, and then realizing that I was wondering, by the way, if you guys have heard of Beatrice Harrison when you were talking about the natural sounds of the world intermingling with a concert sound. And there's this kind of interesting history, which I'll just drop in the chat for all those who are interested. There's a little BBC article about this cellist from 1924 who gave an immensely popular radio broadcast that turned into a series of albums where she played the cello out in the woods with the dialoguing with the nightingales. And,
Oh, wow.
it's kind of beautiful story. And so when Respighi wrote The Pines of Rome, and he has a recorded nightingale in the last movement of that orchestral piece, that was one of the first kind of concert hall reactions to this kind of lesser known story of the cellist in the woods. And her albums were selling like hotcakes. Yeah. And so if there weren't already evidence, I'm a music historian. I think I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
I was going to ask you. I know you're a music person, but
That's
explain
my
your
job.
musical involvement.
Yeah, well, I'm an assistant professor of music history at the University of Oregon, coming to you from not so sunny Eugene.
What is Eugene like? I don't know much about Eugene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one probably oughtn't to know much about Eugene unless you live here. It's a place where some people love it and some hate it, and there's a lot in between. It has a college town kind of vibe, but it is technically a small city rather than a town. It's the second largest city in Oregon, but that's not saying much. It's about 2 hours from Portland, which is just far enough that I don't get there as often as I would like to. It has quite a lot of nice wooded paths and a kind of a Berkeley of the North reputation for a sort of old hippie history, which is still visible in many areas. But like most parts of the West Coast, it is rapidly gentrifying. So I think that summarizes it well, actually. I feel very proud that I've encapsulated my place of residence so well.
That is everything I remember of Eugene from the handful of times I've been there. But I want to ask a question real quick, just to tie a few threads together. So we talked about the cello and the nightingale and the woman who did that. Is Coggle's nightingale piece related to that?
Oh, you mean Respighi?
Maurizio's Coggle has a suite of pieces called Rossignol Enrhumé, or Nightingales with a Cold, in which all the pieces begin with the letter R because it's Maurizio Coggle and he's ridiculous that way. Oh yeah, there's some really fun. There's an accordion recording of some of them that I've heard. And
do they have a recorded nightingale in them?
No, but it's got the bit that I've heard has had some accordion, and some of it was imitating nightingale. It didn't have a recording in it. I don't think he might have. I mean, I don't know the full history of this piece, so.
I mean, it's a good question, although I will say that in Western music history, the nightingale has a kind of a starring role among the birds.
That's true.
So you're more likely to try to invoke the sound of a nightingale than any other type of bird song, rather than, say, the screech of an owl or or the cawing of a crow. So there's a history in opera as well of the, arias, especially in cadenzas, sort of long solistic passages imitating the sound of the nightingale. So it's kind of, I would have to research it to find out if it had anything to do with the cellist or not, or whether he's just kind of playing around with this kind of cliche, like the cliche bird. But
if any of you actually heard a nightingale in the wild, and what does it sound like?
Well, in the wild. Oh, I was going to say there's another piece for accordion and recorded nightingale.
Oh yeah.
By Paulina Oliveros.
Recorded is close.
I forget what it might just be called Nightingale. I don't think so. But she played with birdsong all the time. She was an accordionist and electronic, composer, badass. I forget what it's called. And then just like, oh, R.I.P. Stephen Sondheim. Nightingale. What is it? In Sweeney Todd, what's her name? Who's locked in the thing? She's like, green finch and linnet bird, blah, 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 blah. Is what you sing? I heard the birds that he was listening to when he was composing that were nightingale. Like he had nightingale recordings, and when he was composing that, he was listening to nightingale recordings, which is that actually might be wrong, because when I was the rehearsal pianist for that for a couple productions, and this one high school production that I was a pianist for. God bless the girl who had that role. She could not sing. And that's such an opera role. Like and a lot of other stuff, you could have a ton of character and it's okay. But that's the one role in that musical. If you don't have a voice. Yeah. So to kind of cover, I would try and lovingly be like, oh, no. Oh, do you want to try it again? Oh, maybe. Blah, blah, blah. And she just used to try and cover it up with cool trivia. So she'd be like, oh, Lainie, did you know? Blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, yeah, that's great. Do you want to practice again? So I don't know if any of the stuff she told me was right, but
I imagine the nightingale having kind of like a fluting melodic sort of song. Because, that
was my impression.
But it
might differ quite a bit from the idealized nightingale, and this sort of opera trope. It's normally a little trill that kind of begins slowly, and then I mean. A lot of people know the Nightingale song from Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony in the flowing stream movement. And then towards the end of that movement, you get an interplay of 3 different bird calls. So you have the quail song, bum, ba-dum, which is actually also one that he used in the Moonlight Sonata. If you think about it, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, that's actually supposed to be the quail, which was supposed to be kind of a mournful song. Oh my gosh!
Oh God! Chris found a nightingale, didn't he?
There's plenty of nightingale sound footage available on YouTube, surprisingly enough.
See, it doesn't really sound like... It doesn't sound quite the same as... Well, there's the trill.
I wonder also if it has a range of calls.
It's going to go on for 3 hours.
Yeah, no, we don't need a.
It probably. Hello.
Baskerville, how did you get to Oregon?
What are you doing there, Basky?
Do our cats match?
Your cats match. Oh my goodness,
it's pretty similar. I
think we ought to do a direction.
She's in the other room, I think. I'll go look for her.
Did you see him do a nice meow? Like, what are you up to?
Oh my God. Abigail, your cat looks a lot like Baskerville, who is the official megaphonic cat. Chris has gone to fetch her.
Can mine be the unofficial megaphonic cat?
Yeah. Ooh. Or, the stunt double, because it's so similar.
I think he'd be good at some of the stunts if they involve sort of rolling over slowly. I think that's his specialization.
Here we go. We have 2 black cats. We have bicoastal black cats.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, even with the white armpits. Mine has that too.
Abigail, what is your cat's name?
His name is Kaspar. Because at the time I got him over a decade ago, I thought that was a cool name for a cat, and I no longer think that, so he goes by Kitty.
I didn't know. It seems like a good name for a little black cat.
Well, it's an okay name for a cat, but I really wish I'd named him Zuckerhut, which is the word for, have you guys ever seen a Feuerzangenbowle? Okay, so, all right. So in Germany, for New Year's, which they care a lot more about than a lot of places, a lot of people care about New Year's, but they're really into it in Germany. They do this thing called a Feuerzangenbowle, where you have this big glass bowl full of booze, and then there's some kind of a contraption, and then you put on top of it a little thing called a Zuckerhut, which means a sugar hat, and some kind of specially formulated sugar thing that you light on fire, and you pour alcohol on it, and it drips down into the booze and creates a nice kind of warm mold punch sort of thing. And so I've always thought Zuckerhut would be a cute name for a cat, except apparently I haven't always thought that, because I named this one Kaspar. It's too late now.
Is that for the Ravel, Gaspard de la Nuit?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's shoot, now everybody knows my secret password.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say that.
I gotta change that after this is over.
Oh, your secret's safe. I have no idea how to spell anything, so
No,
you're...
it's Kaspar. It's a Kaspar.
Oh.
But
Oh.
he is Kaspar de la Nuit.
Oh. Oh.
That's amazing.
He's a very
Baskerville,
special cat.
meanwhile.
His fur is white underneath. It's black on the outside and white on the underside. I
Basky
don't know
has
if you
white
can see it.
patches,
See?
as you can see.
Oh, oh, look at those.
Oh,
Wow.
buddy.
Wow.
Also, she doesn't have teeth, so.
Really? Like none?
Yeah, she had stomatitis, which is a sort of autoimmune disease, which causes her teeth were hurting and attacking her, so they all had to be removed, and it's fine. She's much happier now.
Well, she looks like Toothless from those dragon movies too.
But it means that when she play bites, it's now the softest thing.
Oh, wow.
And also,
Yasha
she's very good
appears.
about.
Yeah,
keeping her-
Yasha just zoomed past.
Yeah, I saw a little Yasha sighting in the
Yeah.
distance, in the background.
Oh, 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 oh! Oh! Everyone says hi. Wait, I'm gonna unplug for a second.
There he is. Hello.
It's Yasha.
Hello.
Hey, Holiday Zoom.
Look at this
Hi.
festive placement
Cake
of the
cam.
the festive citrus.
Is this Jared's cake cam? Who's making cake?
It's Jared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
fruit-
figured
There'll be cake in
I
it.
did, yeah, there it is. There it is. Yeah. But I detected synchronicity between the two elbows. But
yeah. You gotta be sure.
It's right.
Oh.
It's a clue. We just realized that 2 of the people on the screen right now have black cats in their homes. Matching black cats.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, what a
Oh,
view.
that face.
Oh, buddy.
Look at the camera. You can't make them do
You
something.
can't make, you can't make cats do things.
Cats do not want to look at cameras.
Show them your face. So I have a question for both Lainie and Yasha. I've become we were talking about your music earlier, and I've become kind of a fangirl for the data-driven instruments area at the University of Oregon. And I know, Lainie, you're connected with some folks there, like Akiko Hatakiyama and some of these other folks, and Jeff Stollett. And I've been going to the student recitals, and they are so great. I've been bringing all my friends to them. I mean, they're so amazing. And they do these incredibly choreographic things with these motion gadgets. I was wondering if you all have used those and what's involved in doing this.
I mean, we're in a laptop band called Sideband, and they, that was connected to Princeton that could have the funds to buy different fun things. So we've used different things that have captured motion. I think the most common one for a long time was the Kinect, if it was a video tracking device. But now actually the cameras in laptops or computers are really good enough that you can do motion triggering things.
So you don't need the special little, it was so strange. It looked like a little hard drive.
Yeah.
And it's down on the table. And then they're just like sorcerers conjuring sound out of the air.
I think doing spatial stuff you can't do with the camera yet, though. Like
if it's deep, if it's 3D, if they were really like getting close and going.
Total. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That's
It sounds like a visual theremin almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
That you can do anything, make sound.
But then she, programmed. The student was taking me on a little tour back, behind the scenes afterwards, and I got to see some of what she was looking at on the monitor, which of course I did not understand. But there's such a complicated software to program the 3-dimensional space at different time intervals. So 5 minutes into a piece, this will make this sound, this will make this sound.
Yeah.
And then she also said she'd been improvising with it, and every piece is improvised, but she, has kind of roughly the same architecture because of the scaffolding of how it's programmed, how the space is programmed, but then she can utilize the space however she wants in the moment.
Yeah.
So that's also really cool, this sort of hybrid of improvisation and composed. And then she was telling me that she discovered, so there was a moment where the piece was kind of, actually this, this ties back because this is a piece. This is Mei Ling Lee, who's one of our almost finished with her DMA, PhD. I forgot, in the data-driven instruments. But anyway, this is a piece that had birdsong. She was using all these different bird calls, but then of course transforming them so they didn't sound like bird calls. And there was a moment. And a lot of them were peacock sounds. There was a moment where, like, the piece was kind of like growing, like there was kind of a like slow kind of growing, and she discovered that she had first started doing it like this, and that she had to like spread her fingers out and move them this way in order to get better sounds. And it was just so cool that, you know, she was showing me how it was different when she did just this versus this. It wasn't
getting to know her instrument. I love that stuff where like you're in control and you're coding a lot of it, but then you discover things just the way like you're on a guitar and you're like, oh yeah, if I move my fingers. I love that stuff.
Right. And there's that kind of interface. I mean, that one doesn't have as a tangible interface since like a theremin, it's sort of in thin air, but then they were also using some other instruments that do have that kind of material interface too, where you have to kind of explore the body's intersection with the instrument. And anyway, I'm just preaching the choir here because you guys this is what you do. But I've become a fan of this kind of stuff. It's just too cool.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, what's fun with stuff like that is that if it's really mapping kind of physical movements to sound, it's a kind of for free. You get otherwise kind of motionless computer musicians making really interesting motions, like, which is fun. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how specialized it is at University of Oregon. It does seem like Jeff Stollett, who's the one who's, you know, runs this program, or at least started the program. Now it's, you know, there's a bunch of people doing it. John Bologna too, and Akiko. But it seems like this is what they really specialize in, is trying to, like, that's why they call it data-driven instruments. So I've never yet seen any of these students give a performance with just a laptop.
Yeah.
And at the very least, they use tablets. So then they're moving the tablets around, you know.
Is there like a list of the students in the program or something? I can go snoop on all their websites.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I'm sure we can dig it up. And as you know, Lainie, we're all, I keep sort of whispering in people's ears saying, can we bring Lainie out to visit? I don't have any influence yet because I'm still a baby professor.
It's so surreal that like the places I want to go in the world, it's like I want to go to Huddersfield and you go whatever, and Eugene, Oregon. I'm like, oh, you amazing people. It's like one of my top 5 places I want to go visit. The amazing Eugene, Oregon.
I mean, Akiko made a piece that's on her website where she lit candles. She threaded some kind of wires around and then lit candles, and then the candles. I don't know.
I'm gonna go make a little tech support Zoom call.
Oh,
nice to see you. The cameo appearance by Jasha. I'm gonna pop Abigail back into the hot seat because I wanted to ask you about your research. You knew this was coming because I find your research extremely interesting.
Well, likewise, yeah, we had such a cool. I forgot if it was a pre or post Pictionary conversation where we started talking about your work too on the philosophy of psychology, and
mine is a little it's been a while, so I'm a little rusty on some of that stuff. But you were talking about the larger project that you're working on, and specifically something about the bodies of composers, and I was wondering if you could get into that.
Oh, I could totally. Yeah, that's right. I remember another time I bent all of your ears to tell you about the Mummy of Bruckner. Right? But that's a weird.
Oh, I feel like I missed that conversation. Oh man.
This is the one. Man. This is why I was like, because Jared, you weren't there, and I was like, oh my god, Jared has to hear this.
Tell me about the Mummy of Bruckner.
Okay, yeah,
extremely up his alley.
I can tell you about the Mummy of Bruckner. I mean, maybe I should give a slight context first for why I was reading about this. Oh, and the fun thing is, I was reading about that topic on Halloween. That's what made it so good.
Yes.
Yes, Halloween Day. But so generally, I'll come back to the Mummy in a moment, but there's a cattail. Generally, I work on I'm writing a book about how composers were treated like saints, and in the late 19th century and early 20th, and so it's this book that moves through these different sort of curious stories that I dug up out of archival ephemera, trying to piece together sort of a cultural history of this kind of early celebrity for composers, but doing it in a way that is hopefully not like tabloid yellow journalism, because there's a lot of books out there that are like, there's this one that just came out called Beethoven's Skull, and without wanting to publicly on air say any ill word about any researcher out there with similar interest to mine.
Everyone's fabulous.
It's a somewhat different approach to my own, which really does try to dig in a little bit into like things like the politics of heritage and preservation. So I have a section of the book on composer houses being turned into sites of pilgrimage, shrines, things like Beethoven's birthhouse made into this site of nativity. Go ahead, Lainie.
I was just going to say, can you picture this being a site of heritage? Like, we have to make a pilgrimage to like 318 Warren.
Yes.
Baby.
Well, that's what,
The individual lights from your strings.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone
lights,
gets one bulb. Like a phone. Anyway,
Lainie touched this.
That's so guaranteed never to happen. But sorry.
No, but actually that's a perfect way of encapsulating this issue, is that when you really look at it from the outside, it's pretty ludicrous and overblown, the extent to which, these people get kind of fetishized, or every little trace. Really, this book actually is more about the saints thing is almost, peripheral to the materiality. I'm really interested in relics and pilgrimage and spaces, and this, kind of clamoring for traces of the absent body of the composer long gone, and ways that people are trying to make genius is a very problematic word, and I have a chapter about that, but ways people are trying to make that tangible and palpable, and that's had a lasting impact on celebrity culture today. But I also find that it tells us a lot about aspects of 19th century politics and history and that kind of thing. So sort of more of a window into that. But Bruckner's mummy. Okay, so oh god, well that's the death mask. That's the death mask. Yeah, it's beautiful, as you can see.
It's actually it's rather serene looking.
Yeah. So that's the death mask. Okay, that was what came up when I was looking for the mummy. But
well, you can look up Beethoven's death mask too, and you'll find two different masks. I have a whole chapter on Beethoven masks.
Because he came back for another one.
There's a life mask made during his life that people call a death mask, inaccurately. And then there's his actual death mask, which, just like the one in Bruckner, looks really disturbing because he had just had this autopsy, and they weren't really good at autopsies back then, so they kind of messed up his head and then took this disgusting. Anyhow, okay, this is all getting really gross and tabloidy. I swear there's legitimate historical interest behind these objects. You can see the difference, right?
So 3 of these are copies of the same life mask, and 2 of them are copies of the death mask.
An interesting story. Even the life mask has kind of an interesting history too, because it was around the turn of the century, around 1900. People were hanging this next to their parlor piano, like you would buy one with a wire. Yeah. And this was the trend. It was the vogue that everyone, whether you were a musician or not, you would hang Beethoven's mask on the wall. But I mean, the funny thing too is that the origin story of that object is interesting too, because it was made during his life, and it was cast by this guy who worked for Gall, for Franz Joseph Gall. He's the guy who invented phrenology, and phrenology is that pseudoscience of like measuring the skull for your aptitudes and all that creepy stuff that we now have thoroughly debunked. So all of this stuff, it's all connected. And, I'm not describing my book with a particularly careful organization at this time, because, each chapter is sort of on an interesting...
it's true. Being alive is very good for the skin.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, apparently it was hard to get that mask from Beethoven because he... didn't like the sensation of having to breathe through those straws, And so there's some speculation that his grumpiness in that face, and that face ended up being the one that portraitists used for their models for generations. But that sort of Beethovenian scowl is actually that he just didn't really like the sensation of plaster on his face. Yeah. Poor guy. But yes. So we wanted to hear about Bruckner's mummy. So okay. Well, I swear there's a rhyme and reason to all this research and not just ghastly body parts, but it makes for good kitchen party talk. So So Bruckner was an odd bird. Let's start with that. And he he's kind of a quirky figure, because he had this, he cultivated really a pretty dedicated following, even though his music was quite divisive and some found it sort of excessively long, difficult, and tedious. And so, he was already kind of a polarizing figure in Austrian music culture. And the part that I'm interested in is how he was interested in crafting his own legacy and the way that living composers could sometimes engineer their own cults. And the funny thing is, people remember, so the tabloid story that everyone knows is that, Bruckner, so when Beethoven was exhumed, that's a whole other story, but Beethoven and Schubert were exhumed to be buried, and then there was all this phrenological analysis of their skulls, and I have a whole chapter on that. But anyway, when that happened, Bruckner apparently pushed past all the doctors and banged down the door and rushed in when he wasn't invited in order to cradle Beethoven's skull and whisper things to it. And it's disgusting and weird. And so because of that, he got this reputation as a necrophiliac. And Bruckner lovers today still insist that it's unfair. And, Bruckner, all we want to think about are these funny stories about him. But what about the serious Bruckner? And this is mischaracterizing him and turning him into this caricature of a necrophiliac. But when you read about Bruckner's mummy, it seems a little bit apt because let me tell you, he wrote. So he had very specific ideas for what he wanted to have done with his body when he died. And I suppose many of us do. So he wanted to be interred in a tomb in a sort of catacomb underneath his favorite organ in a monastery where he used to be an organist in rural Austria.
Can you
now, it happens that this
can
sort
you...
of catacomb... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, can you do that? Is that kosher? Can you be like, please put me under the organ?
Well, yeah. So he insisted on it, and so they did. And
he was famous enough that he could ask for that, and they would just do it.
Yeah, and if anyone is doing some Googling and wants to drop links in, you can take a look at what it looks like because it's next to an. Oh yeah, that's the mummy.
Oh my God,
we haven't gotten there yet. It's next to an ossuary, so there's stacks of bones and skulls and things on the wall next to it. And then he insisted that his body be mummified, and he himself wrote in this testament that he needed to have that glass window in there so that people could observe and genuflect before his disgusting remains. And so I just think there's something really special in that stubbornness that he would really want to have that window. Now, fast forward 40 years, and this is where I was reading about this on Halloween. Fast forward 40 years, and a devout follower, pilgrim to Bruckner, who was a musical doctor. That's not a coincidence. I have a whole chapter about musical doctors fetishizing composers' remains, but okay, let's bracket that. So a doctor who loves Bruckner went on pilgrimage to the tomb and discovered that there was mold growing on the body because the conditions of the catacombs were a little too humid. And so he wrote this furious letter and sort of set off this whole chain of correspondence, which I was reading on Halloween Day, trying to get the recently formed, very recent, it's called the, gosh, what is that in English? The Historic Preservation Bureau of Austria to see this gross body as a site of national heritage of great universal importance to all mankind. And so so that's already interesting. This is what I mean about the politics of heritage and preservation, that kind of thing. And so the funny part was this, they sent in a neutral arbiter to go in and make a detailed report of what is the condition of the body after all. And reading this thing in German is just hysterical. I was laughing so much because he said, he's giving this very kind of sober, detailed report about the condition of the body. And he said, upon shining a lantern into the corners of the tomb, we see several spider egg sacs with a large number of spiders who are attendant on the premises. And if you were to examine the body from this angle, it is apparent that the mold is most proliferation. The most area of most proliferation is around the nose. And if you look over here, and then he said something about two flies buzzing around in the middle. It just paints a perfect picture. You imagine you're the pilgrim, you've come to genuflect, and you gaze into the tomb. And
he has a moldy nose.
It's just like a circling fly.
Make sure your mummy is desiccated. Exactly. Yeah, so this was a strange thing. And they did eventually opt for applying a chemical treatment to the body to try to stop this from happening, and then sealing it up in a new tomb without the window. So, they had to make
the
a
window.
concession.
That's a good, yeah, exactly. I mean, there could be spiders partying away in there. We don't have to know about it anymore.
I think there probably are to this day.
I think
Spiders partying in there.
What was wrong with relics?
Well, that's the other. There was also people were also taking relics of composers. I remember you getting into that at one point.
Yeah. I mean, totally. Well, I mean, then that's the thing about that's another thing that I find interesting.
Skylight's always
leak. Oh, that's hysterical.
That's true.
Oh boy, they sure do. Yeah. So the relics thing is kind of interesting because the objects I find so there's sort of a whole backstory of people treating these these objects like relic. But the thing that makes it a relic is the way you treat it, right? So I found some kind of correspondence and letters and things about someone who owned Beethoven's walking stick and who would pass it around at parties and allow ladies with a musical education to kiss it. Like this kind of sort of gatekeepery attitude towards well, if you are of the sufficient breeding, you may kiss my relic. But so there's that part's interesting. The thing I find more interesting is what part of the book deals with this question of the relic in mass culture and consumer society, because the thing that's cool about Beethoven's Mass, which I never really came back around to, is that it has the properties of a relic, but it's mass produced. So it's a way, so people want to have a way of buying something, instead of it being passed through this kind of insider circles of people who knew, oh, my aunt took piano lessons with Beethoven, that's why I have this hairlock, So I'm interested in the ways that starts to happen. Same thing as the confluence of pilgrimage with tourism.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, what I find so fascinating about this is there's a lot going on there. And it is this idea of the materiality that you can kind of distill, that there's a thing that is genius for starters, that's a thing that exists, but you can somehow distill it into material objects, including like someone's pinky bone or their walking stick or a mask of their face or something, and then it can get circulated and people can somehow like draw the power from this object. Like there's a whole it's a little creepy and strange, and it's also fascinating.
So for a podcast, I was looking up information about Franz Liszt, and who was sort of a big, early celebrity type, and also had people running up and taking cigarette butts and like dregs of coffee and so forth and treasuring them. And I thought, oh, that's great. And then I just
he
found
would even
out
throw stuff to the ladies on stage, just like Elvis did with his stars.
He encouraged it. And then I was like, oh, that's so weird. But 19th century celebrity and so forth. There's a guy who just put out a book called Nina Simone's Gum, about a piece of gum that he took from a concert 21 years ago. His name's Warren Ellis. And took a piece of...
Warren Ellis?
Warren Ellis?
Warren Ellis? Is that somebody you know?
Is this, if it's the Warren Ellis? Yeah.
The one who plays with Nick Cave.
No.
Like in the bad scene.
There's two, and that's the slightly less famous one who doesn't write comic books.
Yeah, I was thinking of the comic one.
Yeah.
I thought it was a comic one. Actually, I thought it was a comic book.
Well, it might be that one. It might be the comic book Warren Ellis then.
Because I thought it was a comic book. I thought I was looking up comic books, and I think that's how I stumbled upon it. So,
and this is a whole.
This is a tangent within a tangent.
But there's another one who is a musician, which is why it could be either one. So.
It is confusing.
Oh, I've got to read
this.
Person.
I think it's the musician one. And anyway, he has now written a book about it, and then has given the chewing gum to, what is it? The Royal Danish Library.
Oh my God.
Where it's being conserved and put on a plinth for everyone to
just as she would have wanted, I'm sure.
Are they going to clone Nina Simone?
I mean, like, and Nina Simone of all people, who was an extremely anti-bullshit person in terms of her personality. It was just
Wait, but I have an important question. This is an important question. Like 7 people really like my music. I'm a composer. What are the relics that people are going to be fighting over when I die? Like, is it going to be my pinky bone? Will it be the fairy light? I do like this idea that every bulb.
Oh, Ned knows. Ned says
it is. Yeah, no, it is the one
who works with Nick Cave.
Who is not a comic book artist.
Like in the Bad Seeds? Does he play in the Bad Seeds?
I don't know.
He's the one obsessing over Nina Simone's gum. See, I want to think like the pita bag. I just.
Oh, he's also in Dirty 3. Oh. Okay, he's a violinist.
Yeah, the PETA or like, I don't know.
I think
Like,
as
I
long
just-
as we can clone you from it, it has value.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
It has a large
Oh
enough
my
sample of
god,
DNA.
my Dolly mug. Maybe my
Yeah.
Dolly mug will be in a little
I mean, we all want
box
your
in
Dolly mug. Anyway.
Denmark. Yeah. We all want the Dolly.
Lainie, the
I
fun
think
thing is that you don't have to choose. Other people will decide that
That's true.
for
Other
you.
people choose for me. That's true. But what if
Apparently
I
it's
want to
nice before.
monetize it? Can I monetize it before I die? Like, Abigail, is there any instances of composers being like, oh yeah, like Liszt, like, here, ladies, take my crap. So what if I had some crap and was like, here, $100, have my.
I mean, that is what autograph signing is, if you pay for it.
I think I've signed maybe 2 autographs my whole life. Fun fact, one of the autographs I signed was for a family visiting New York who, maybe farcically, but to me anyway, they were convinced I was Sarah Jessica Parker. They kept calling me Sarah Jessica Parker. And I had to keep going. Have I told you this story? I love this story.
No.
It was when I first moved to the city, and I did kind of I dyed my hair blonder, and I don't know, I was younger, and I wore some high heels one night out of my life, and I was wearing a little dress, and they were like, oh, Sarah Jessica Parker! And I was like, no, I'm not Sarah Jessica Parker. And the mom especially is like, shh, no, I know, we really don't want to bother you. We just love you so much. Could you sign our autograph book? And I had to keep saying, no. And she wouldn't leave me alone. So finally I was like, look, I'll sign your book, but I promise you I'm not Sarah Jessica Parker. She was like, okay, I know. So somewhere in some autograph book, there's, I am not Sarah Jessica Parker, Lainie Pfefferman. And she was so excited. It was like a picture all together. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the polite thing to do.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
But I'm saying maybe that will be the relic. Like someone will.
I was
find
gonna
that
say,
and go,
yeah,
"Oh,
and then you became, and perhaps your fame outlasts that of Sarah Jessica Parker.
Think of something related but slightly peripheral. So much of my book involves talking about things in the 19th century that I think we wish didn't exist, that are a little too creepy and we would like to discontinue, But there's one practice that I feel like maybe people should bring back a little more, or maybe it actually exists more than I think, and that's these albums. So, sorry, not albums like musical albums, but like, a thing where you would basically buy a little, it's almost like a notebook or a little box that had these loose sheets of paper and give them to your friends, and they'd write things on it or put pressed flowers or draw or like essentially produce something kind of personal, and then you collect them. And the autograph book, like the autograph collection, grew out of that practice, which is a much earlier practice that actually dates all the way back to the earliest universities, because they were kind of like the first yearbooks where students would pass them around and describe little, like their favorite Latin phrase or whatever. And so I looked at a bunch of these albums for a different project in archives in Dresden, and they're kind of magical. And I was thinking, man, people should bring these back. Not just like the HAGS have a good summer that you write in, your bullies yearbook, but like something that's more personal practice.
So it feels a bit like some people have guest books in their houses and such that you might sign.
Oh, that's
when my husband and I got married, however many years ago now, we got a book like that for guests to sign, but we were also, because families are large and because, I lived on the West Coast for a while and some of my family couldn't travel very much, we ended up having like 4 or 5 wedding celebrations in different places. So we kept bringing this book around. So we really got like everyone to sign it who was part of our lives, or not everyone, obviously, but like a good percentage of the people. So it is really nice to have that document of at least one time when everybody signed it. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. It's us both.
Yes. That is the most common place for that kind of guest book. But there's even a little rhyme that usually goes with those, but it doesn't have to be that. You can just have it in your hallway if you want.
I like
or
that.
just carry it with you. Especially, I think it would especially work if you were sort of an artist type, Jared. And if you were one of those artist types who goes around sketching constantly, which I don't know if Jared does that or not. But
no, I keep meaning to be that person, and then I never am that person.
It's too late. You're not that person, I'm afraid.
Let's to change. I'm still young.
No.
Jared is baby.
Jared is baby, but he's an old baby at this point.
That's true, but...
Well, anyway, if you did that, you could have like part of it could be your note-taking, sketch-making, whatever, and then you could also just get a habit of having people, hey, here's a page, here's a pen, do something.
It's fun.
Well, I liked how the ones I looked at, people would purchase them as a little. The box itself was shaped like a book, and had this kind of gold. It was this sort of trompe l'oeil fake book. Well, not fake book, like jazz fake book. And then you lift off the cover, and inside the sheets were all loose paper, so that way you could let people have them for a while. So it wasn't just like, here, sign, because when people ask me to sign a guest book, I get nervous and I don't quite know what to write, and it's sort of like writing a birthday card for somebody an hour before you see them, or 5 minutes, and so I like that the practice involved, giving people time with their sheet. I have to produce an album page for my friend. How am I going to capture our friendship? And people were quite thoughtful in it.
It's also easier to draw on a sheet. Like if it's not, sometimes the book is like, the spine creates this deep valley or whatever. Whoops.
Gaspar!
the cat wants attention.
This is pandemic animal behavior where they start getting real needy. Although one thing I will say before I start, waxing poetical about these books, some of them, I did have a slight moment of disillusionment with the beauty of this practice when I discovered that a lot of the poems that were written in there came from these anthologies of like poems for albums. So at first I thought, because I started seeing the same poems over and over. And so there's something actually a little hallmarky about it too.
It's interesting also how a lot of those like customs that we think of as modern go way back, like the idea of having a template or, quoting something rather than just doing your own. Like there was already a market for that kind of thing. And the whole, there's the whole teenage girl culture of, coming up with like there's I think it's in one of actually like Mark Twain's books. I think it's in Huck Finn or something, where there's he runs into this, one of the characters runs into this teenage girl who has a book, and all she does is like write in her book, and she's an emo kid, and she draws like pictures of sad girls, and she writes, and she'll draw like a dead bird, and then she'll write "never more to sing again, alas," etc. And it's like she would have Twitter now and be posting that on Twitter if it was like 2021. It's just there's something so telescoped about the behavior is so recognizable.
Hey, Jared.
Yes.
This is the first time that you're making a dish that you've made before, right? Because normally you're
trying to second time.
Oh, second time?
Lasagna.
Right. Have you? No, we were talking earlier about the difference between fruitcake and stollen. Have you made stollen?
I have not.
Okay. Because I went out and I decided to get
well then
a stollen as well. It says fruitcake on it. You see, it says seasonal fruitcake. But this is actually...
some of them have like the bits of candied fruit in them as well as the marzipan, right?
Exactly. Let me just...
that's why I think
it's fruitcake adjacent.
Yeah, I generally can't eat stollen because it often has almond in it.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, marzipan is almond. Oh, are you allergic to
almonds? We already have one that you couldn't.
Oh, well then forget it.
This has almonds in it, so
you
don't look up right
now. You could do a hazelnut version, or a pistachio.
Well, the fruitcake that I make, the recipe calls for almonds, so I had to. That was the first fruit I ever made. Was like, well, obviously this is going to kill me, so I gotta change it.
Jared's pro tip: don't make food that kills you.
Yeah,
that is
ideally. Yeah,
it's a shame for a baker to be allergic to an ingredient like that.
This is a lot less exciting on the inside, but you can see it's yeasted.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, you're making me hungry. I want one. I should have done that.
How many bacons did you buy? I'm just curious.
I feel like we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
Can say
for demonstration purposes. Chris bought a lot of baked goods.
Research.
Yeah, stollen's really different. It's nice. This is pretty nice.
I love them. It's so good.
They're very good. And it is like a panettone, but it's a bit more. I feel like it's a bit more Christmassy. Maybe it's the powdered sugar. Maybe it's the spice blend.
I think it's not that sweet. The ones that I've had, the sweetness is in the marzipan, but the dough itself is a little less sweet, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, this one doesn't have marzipan. It is made with artesian spring water, so that's good.
Ooh.
As well as organic palm shortening, which is probably bad.
Organic
and glucose fructose, which is what we call high fructose corn syrup up north. So not really that good for you. I've definitely had better stollen, but I still like it. It's still good.
Did it stole in the show? Oh God, that wasn't even a grammatical pun.
Bada bing, bada bing, bada bing.
I'm climbing back into my crypt.
Oh, I'm just mad I didn't think of that first.
Your
honestly.
windowed crypt next to an organ.
That's right. Full of spiders.
Oh.
Oh man. Chris, while I have
boy.
you in the hot seat, now seems like
Yeah.
a good
Oh yeah, we have
Oh, yeah.
Chris.
we haven't heard from Chris.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Tell us about the crosswords. I mean, I know that I think of you now as that crossword guy, but how did that happen? How did you become that crossword guy, Chris?
Well,
what is your
once
origin
upon a
story?
time, the world was a fun place and you could go outside, and then it stopped being that for a while. And you think, what can you do? And for a while, Mikey, my husband, and I were making music. We did a sort of alphabet of songs that we did one a day, until that got to be a little too much, and then they became like one most days, and then it became one a week. By the time we got to the last
They were
letter,
really good though.
they were lots of fun. It was lots of fun talking with people about what should we do for S, etc. And we would do a fun mix of like really simple, low tech videos for them, like one-shot videos, and like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But then that finished, and we were sort of burned out from that project. And I had always wanted to. I mean, I had always had an interest in crosswords. My grandmother did them. I did them. There's a fantastic photo of me somewhere as a kid. I'm not going to try to find it now, I don't think, but where I'm about 3 years old, and I'm staring at a crossword puzzle, and I have this look of disgust in my face. So that's fun.
I think I have seen that one.
I've shown it to people. I just don't want to find it right now. And so I started. I found out about some crossword construction software, and I decided to like take the plunge and pay the $50 for Crossfire, and started making them, and then sort of stumbled into this whole community of indie crossword makers, and started Twitch streaming them every day, solving crossword puzzles, and it just exploded from there. There's a really great Discord where mostly beginning solvers, but all sorts of solvers of varying levels of having been published and so forth hang out. That was all a year or so ago. I've gotten some reputation or acclaim for some of the puzzles I make, and I was recently asked to be part of a group that would edit a feature for an expanded version of the AVCX, which is formerly the AV Club's crossword, but it went independent a long time ago, where the AV Club stopped paying for it. And so the person who was running it kickstarted up funds to make it its own thing, and it's been its own thing for a long time now. And now instead of being a once a week puzzle that always does regular puzzles, it's going to be a once a day puzzle that's going to put out a whole wide variety of things and provide interesting puzzles from new and up and coming constructors, and also make sure they get paid well. So the Kickstarter is going on right now. And if you're interested in that sort of thing, you should go check it out. That's what I've been doing with crosswords, at least. It's been fun. You get to explore all sorts of things.
You do a live stream.
I do all sorts of live streams, as you know, but I do a crossword. Let me see if I've got the right one here. Hold on. I do a crosswording live stream. I don't do it every day now because after a while that got a little but and I've been really busy this month, so it's down to about once a week. But I still do it, and it's still a lot of fun. And I do crosswords, and people. There's trivia stuff, and all sorts of other fun stuff have come out of it. So that's some of my crossword story.
The crossword story. Do you have crossword aspirations? Do you yearn to create the world's largest crossword, or?
I definitely I'm definitely bringing the same attitude I'm bringing from all the other creative outlets I've had to crosswords. So I've done poetry and music and other stuff, and thinking of crosswords in that way, trying to think about this space and what can I do in this space. And so I've definitely done a few things that have tried to push the envelope in terms of what my ambitions are. I just want to, do cool things, have fun, and encourage people and give people permission to do fun things as well. So that's sort of my thing in terms of professional ambition. I don't know. I'm doing this editor thing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Kickstarter is going well.
Fun fact: my dad is a big New York Times crossword puzzler. Loves it. Rips through the Saturday puzzle with reckless abandon. And you broke him. Your puzzle broke him. He was just like, he actually just shook his head at me and was like, I can't do it. Which is funny because I think it's just that you pull on a wider knowledge, but like he's really kind of in tune now with exactly what the Times needs of him. Like it doesn't go too far into pop culture or non-Western culture. It doesn't go too far into like specific knowledge bases or whatever. And he's so in tune with the Will Shortz message style, whatever.
Yeah.
That I was like, no, but Poppy, look, I'm an idiot. I finished this one. He's just like, I can't.
That's so interesting though, because I'm not a huge, I confess I'm not a huge crossword puzzle person myself, but this raises a really interesting question of like, what is the knowledge base of a crossword puzzle? And like is the New York Times, is there a specific worldview?
Yes.
I think yes.
It's called middle-aged white guys.
Yeah.
And
so
a lot of
this suggests that there's like a politics of crossword puzzles.
Oh God, yeah. And there's been a lot of think pieces about this. This is well discussed.
There we go.
But yes, and a lot of the other outlets, such as the AVCX, which the Kickstarter thing that I'm part of, such as even the USA Today puzzle, which has gone from being a complete joke to being, in many ways, the most interesting like mainstream outlet puzzle out there. It's easier than the New York Times, but it's better in many ways. So it depends on what you're looking for in a puzzle. But there's a lot of discussion about that, and a lot of discussion about the fact that crossword puzzles have been for readers of the New York Times, which have historically been rich white men,
boomers,
and especially boomers. But even when it's tried to not be boomers, it's still kind of stuck to that. I mean, that's why you get so many goddamn
trying to relate.
Clues. And I like opera clues. I think I go to the opera and so forth, but I do recognize that when you're putting in like, what's the name of, I don't know, Aida's hand servant? Like, I don't know that.
My dad probably knows that.
Exactly. So like some of it's just because it's been in crosswords a million times. They're expected to know that. So there's also that
especially
kind of knowledge base.
A word that uses like an unusual combination of letters that it's like
exactly.
From crossword puzzles because it fills the gaps really easily.
It's an interesting point because there's been some, at least over in the academic world, sort of new interest in the middlebrow studies, as they're calling it. So not necessarily using that word uncritically because it's a middlebrow, highbrow, lowbrow are all problematic words, but it's an interest in looking at this kind of demographic, the exact demographic that you're talking about, and it makes me wonder if people have discussed that with.
Boy, that schedule's not true anymore.
Oh, really? It popped up, and I was like, "Well, this seems timely."
Yeah, I need to update Nightbot. Yeah, I think, I'd be interested to see if middlebrow. I don't know about that as a subfield on its own, so I don't know what it's talking about. But
I can pull up a single graphic that will capture it beautifully, which is from a magazine from 1947 or something that tries to classify tastes in all these different everyday things like salads, drinks, opera, like everything like that, music. And you know what? Let me pull it up, and I'll
absolutely,
put it there, and it's going to speak volumes.
AP, yes, indeed.
I did an autobio comic called Fruitcake, so you can do whatever you want.
What?
Yeah.
Link.
Oh, it's just in like little print zines that I've got like 2 of.
Scan it
at this point
for the archive.
The people want to see it.
The people want to see it.
Don't make me come to your grave.
Don't make me steal your bones.
Oh
what
my
else
gosh.
are they going to be good for at that point? People can just have them. I don't care.
Oh my gosh. So, sorry.
Oh no, I was just seeing if the link was coming up or not.
Oh, sorry. I found it, but I found it. I'm just looking for one without a open image in new tab. I just want to show you the image without a bunch of other garbage. Okay, here.
All right, there we go. There we go.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is quite entertaining.
Neat.
I could
The-
probably find a higher quality version where you can actually
I
read it.
think that's fine for now, probably.
I don't have
Yeah.
my glasses, so I can't read any of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to like.
So this
return
is
to
Life
later, but-
Magazine, 1949.
Oh wow!
Whoops.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I would like to
49.
find a copy of this that you can actually read, but it's
Yeah.
hysterical.
That'd make a great poster.
Highbrow useful objects, decanter and ashtray from Chemical Supply Company. Upper middlebrow useful objects, silver cigarette box with wedding ushers' signatures.
Oh.
Lower middlebrow useful object, his and hers towel. Lowbrow useful objects.
I found a better.
What is
higher
that?
quality version.
Baham stuffed pillow? What is that?
Ham stuffed.
I found
A
a higher
Oh,
quality
okay.
version, so you can actually read
Oh,
it.
yeah,
that is
better.
much
But
better.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting, and I use this to teach. When I teach,
Also stuffed.
social class and taste and that kind of thing, and high and low, and then I talk about Bourdieu and his book Distinction, and then we take a look at the records section where the highbrows only like Bakken before or Ives and after, which I think is hilarious.
Fair.
And then the upper middle brow likes things like Brahms, Sibelius, Chopin, Parsifal. Lower middle brow likes light opera and popular favorites.
Grand
and
Canyon
low brow
Suite.
is just the jukebox.
Nice. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Although you can see the names. It's Grand Canyon Suite, Nelson Eddy, Costellanets. I don't know who that
But
is.
so
in
the
this
reason
context.
that's made me think of this is like,
Victor
if you
Herbert.
go across the
Very
upper
good.
middle brow row, is that the crossword? Is
Ooh.
crossword
Mhm.
culture kind of a frozen in time, snapshot of what in 1949 was considered upper middle brow? It's kind of the question I was pondering.
Oh, so that's an interesting thing. Crossword culture has had. There was a period when crosswords were first invented, where they were incredibly popular in the sense of like it was a fad, and so people would like go all out, and especially like outfits with crossword patterns on it were really popular. And this would all be like the 30s, 20s into 30s, I think. And so in the 40s, you're coming after that. Crosswords hit a bit of a low. That's around when the New York Times started doing their crossword puzzle. I think that was in 45, I want to say, maybe earlier. But yeah, anyway. So I don't know exactly how highbrow or lowbrow it would have been considered then. It certainly sort of got higher brow as that group aged up. And by the time you're in the like 70s or 80s, especially the New York Times puzzle, at least, the puzzles edited by Eugene Maleska were just the worst in terms of navel gazing, in terms of you know it or you don't. And you probably don't know about what this 3-letter African antelope is. There's such I do them occasionally on the stream. There's such nonsense.
I guess just the very premise that there is a shared corpus of knowledge about many topics in the world is something that is itself kind of a upper middle class aspiration.
Yeah. And when people sort of and when constructors sort of push, or editors push against that and clue things in terms of, let's say, not white
Ouch.
interests, not white male-centered topics, obviously a certain part of the readership, surprise, surprise, gets very angry. And what are you going to do? Except gently remind them that they are not the center of the world and not everything needs to be all about them all the time. They don't like that. Surprise, surprise.
Chris, I've been thinking as you describe various things that can go terribly wrong with crossword puzzles. What in your view makes a good crossword puzzle? What do you like to see in crossword puzzles?
There's a few different ways it can go. I mean, this is sort of like what makes a piece of music good. Like it can go well in a bunch of different ways. I definitely like a strong sense of the constructor. That can be fantastic. Like you want to hear the voice. You don't. If you like, there's some crossword puzzles you'll encounter in the wild, which are all sort of one word clues, and they're very stodgy, and you're like, yes, that is apps. Whatever. You're like, no, I don't. That's ridiculously boring. And one of the great things about puzzles being mostly played and distributed online is that you no longer have the kind of newspaper desire for tightness, right? newspaper crosswords have a very limited word count for the clues, and that really limits how much voice you can have. Doesn't make it impossible, but it limits it. And so online stuff just shoots that wide open, and now you can get clues that are as long as your arm. And so that's one good thing. Obviously, really impressive formal constructor feats, or either a really good gimmick, or just there's a thing called a stack, which is when you have like 3 or 4 long words in a row stacked on top of each other. That's can be really stunning. The stack is a thing that I'm particularly not good at. I'm much better at thinking up, here's a fun gimmick for breaking how grids work, or rethinking how grids work, or just like let's do a crossword puzzle in the shape of the letter N and have no N's in any of the clues or the answers. Like, that's more the sort of thing I do really well. Or the puzzle that I clued where every clue was 15 letters long. The central word was 15. Which many people said they didn't even notice. Yeah, very Olympian, very high concept crossword gimmicks, etc. There was one that I did where there were 6 sort of themed answers, which were in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from Family Feud grid.
Nice.
Getting the top 6 things people would rather keep personal or private or something like that.
Yeah. Bringing those people. Who are these people?
Exactly, bringing that into it. So that was a really fun. It just happened that they were all like 8 letters, 8 letters, 8 letters, 6 letters, 6 letters, 6 letters. I was like, I can make a grid out of this. Amazing. So that was a lot of fun. I don't know. I do things like that.
I really desperately want to share a photo with you people, but I can't figure out how to do it.
If you put
Does
it
this
in
have
the
a URL?
Chris can do it.
Yeah, I guess if I make it a URL, let me see. It's my personal photograph. It's not on the World Wide Web, but if I put it in my Dropbox, then it will become a URL.
Do you have? All right, you can do that. Yes,
I can do that. That's a thing I can do.
I will also say, not about crosswords, but we can come back to that. That on the last album I put out, I did include field recordings of birds, but not ones that I made, I'll admit. I forget whether it was a raven or a crow. I think it was crows, but
I think crows get a bad rap. They have a lot of interesting sounds.
I just want, it was
not all of them are cawing.
This was cawing. This was very, but it was like a angry song about a crow war god. So what are you gonna do?
Well done.
Fun fact: someday I really want to put out the Schubert crow song as like an emo indie techno song.
The Schubert
crows are Mikey has a special affinity with crows.
Yeah, I think so. It's from my wedding, and I got my dad that tie, and he said, "Oh, anything you want." And I was like, "I just want you to wear the crossword tie." Oh, that's
very sweet.
Yeah, he's a cutie. He's very proud to wear the tie. He was maybe the most nattily dressed, except for Yasha, of anyone at the wedding. Yeah.
It's such a good tie too. Like it just looks nice.
Yeah, if you kind of blur your eyes, it's just like a fun black and white pattern.
Yeah.
Like, oh, right, crossword tie.
See, but also there's a whole so I'm not participating in the discourse. I'm going to talk about the discourse because the discourse drives me crazy. But if we zoom in on the picture.
Oh
boy.
Well, it's not going to let us. So if we undo that.
Oh, you're going to talk about like the symmetry of the black thingy-doos.
Yep. You see sort of what I've put in the middle of the screen right now. You can see sort of a little cock and balls shape. And you can see that there's a square sort of right next to it.
Orphans.
You can see my pointer. So the pointer is pointing at a square that is an unch. It's an unchecked square. You only get a clue in one direction. You don't have a clue in the other direction. There's a whole Twitter account that likes to point out these things and, hashtag not a crossword. I think that this is completely obnoxious behavior and I'm against it.
People get excited about in the crossword world. This is why we ask you, Chris. I would not know this without asking you.
I'm so against the gatekeepy snobbery of not a crossword. You. Also, this is a crossword. What else would you call this? Like, it's not going to fly in the New York Times, probably, but it's a crossword. Come on. Don't be a dick.
Well, and I guess the pattern repeats, doesn't it, all the way down the tie? Because there's the unchecked square.
There's another cocks and balls.
There it is. And there it is.
Yeah, well, and that is sort of how ties are made, I guess. Yeah, I guess the numbering restarts as well. It's fine. You know what? It's fine. That's not a problem. It's a perfectly nice tie, and people shouldn't be dicks. That's the end of my rant about that.
That should be the subtitle of this. Like, make it fruitcake with Jared, people shouldn't be dicks.
Mikey says crows have like 50 sounds, and we just hear them
I
yelling,
already put that on.
Yeah.
which is fair.
The ones who often fly around outside my place. Okay, never mind. I'm painting myself into a corner because I don't think I can imitate it. But it's like, okay, let me see if I can try. It's like that,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really soft and it's very sweet, and they do it back and forth to each other. It sounds very tender.
It's almost a meowing.
It doesn't sound quite like that.
That's very much like, although a sort of harsher version of that is, here, I'll just play it for a hot second.
Sorry, I'm gonna quickly do a... Jared, you just brought us...
That's from your song?
Like, Lainie's is the correct reaction.
You broke Lainie.
Did break Lainie, oh no!
Oh no!
Anyway, it goes on.
That's cool.
I'm gonna quickly check in with Jared because he just brought something out of the oven, it looked like. Did you? Something happened.
There's still 18 minutes on the timer.
Oh no.
What time is it? My computer clock is always a little off. So
about a quarter after. So you've got like in 18 minutes. If it actually, like, if you can whisk it out of the oven in 18 minutes, you will be just about very close to.
Very likely won't be able to do that because it does take. It always takes longer to bake than the timer says. Okay. But what I did bring out, and I don't know if I want to do this now or wait a little bit, is the year-old cake.
Oh, very nice.
Does it need to defrost a bit, or is it already defrosted?
Oh, it's already.
Okay.
Good.
I just got out of the fridge, so it would be more room temperature.
Oh, we lost Lainie. She's broken by the crow.
That's good, because I also have a fruitcake that I brought.
Well.
Oh my god.
And you see, it says excellence on it, so I think it'll stand up to yours.
Wait, no, not that. Here.
This is a deluxe fruitcake from
Deluxe.
I think that's a T, not an F. McTadgan's Bakery? I don't know. Sounds dubious. But it's Canadian again. We got a lot of fruitcakes up here in Canada. See if I can open this box. Where are they based? They're based in Nova Scotia again. They're not the same ones who made that real bad one I started with, I don't think.
Nova Scotia is fruitcakes, a boom industry in Nova Scotia.
Fruitcake capital of Canada.
Oh, Lainie just texted me with, shit, internet death.
Oh no.
All of our internet died? Oh no.
I don't know. Just that's all I got.
Happened to me once during a kitchen party stream, and I was like, "Oh god,
oh god, how am I gonna do this? I need to break a hole in the plastic."
So how did it become a slang for a crazy person?
It's all mixed up.
I can look that up in a second, but I'm opening a fruitcake right now.
I did forget to say at the start of this, in case anybody wants to know how on brand I've always been, this recipe that I make is Martha Stewart's Dowager Duchess fruitcake.
Does she have alternate cakes for all the different, not upstairs, downstairs, Downton Abbey characters?
No.
Whoa. Oh, that looks good.
Oh my goodness. That is
that looks almost edible.
Proper. That's proper looking, yes.
Now, this is very sticky.
That's,
yep.
Has a nice crown of pecans, as it should.
Yeah.
Being that it's a royal.
Jelly as well.
It smells really good in here right now, and I'm sorry nobody else can experience this.
This is a feature of feature of this stream in general.
Yeah.
This is the other reason I got fruitcake, was so that I could also have a nice smelling.
Can you put ginger in a fruitcake?
Oh yeah.
Probably could, right?
You can do anything you want as long as it all works together.
As long as leeks would be a bad idea, as Michael pointed out.
Yeah, well,
I'm picturing a ginger apricot fruitcake.
That
that would probably be really, really good.
That does look deluxe, Chris.
Not fake crumb to it, which I like.
Yeah. It still has those green cherries, though, right? Because that's kind of off-putting to me.
Well, I mean, a lot of people like the green cherries. What can you do?
I have no
I know, but they're wrong. Is the thing. They shouldn't like them.
I will say on the subject of leeks, I made some leek latkes last night.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah,
That would be
I
good.
had a Hanukkah party with a friend.
Ooh.
Fortunately, she agreed to host it, so my house doesn't smell like fried food, which is great. But yeah, I made a type of
leek and turkey soup with Thanksgiving leftovers. So
that sounds good.
Update: Lainie is restarting her modem, so she may or may not.
Okay.
Back with us.
Some of the green things are cherries, but some of them are pineapples. They're green pineapples.
Huh.
Which I assume it's still food dye, but that's the best one of the night for sure. Well, except for cherries.
Ooh.
But I don't have to
Okay,
taste
Jared.
that.
I'm gonna.
I guess I might as well do this now because it's going to be a while. So
Yeah.
forget about
So
the other
we
one.
have about like 15, 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Every year I
I'm sorry.
it's okay. Every year I try to remember to have a latke party on Hanukkah, and I usually forget until like two or 3 weeks after Hanukkah.
It was
But
early
it
this
turns-
year.
It was.
It started right after Thanksgiving.
It started on my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you.
Happy belated.
But it turns out latkes are good anytime.
They
Yeah.
are. They're an anytime food.
They really are. That's true. What did you do for your birthday?
Went to a
Latke party.
bookstore
Mm.
and a donut store and a rock store.
Oh.
And it was all amazing.
Did you get rocks?
I did, yeah. So I don't know, fruitcake
So what is the story behind this fruitcake? Why was it in your freezer?
to keep it longer because
Yeah,
I forget to do the weekly liquoring.
But Jared,
So,
how did it come to be in your freezer? What is the
I put it
origin
there.
story?
I made it.
Oh, you made it.
This is last year's.
Okay.
fruitcake.
Last year it was hard to share fruitcake with people.
It's true.
It was.
It's also why you made a goose all by yourself.
Yeah, that was a little. What happened? The way it gets to be the way that it is, when it comes out of the oven, you pour sherry on it, sizzles very satisfyingly, and all that. Yeah. No. Yes. I did for a while when I was first doing it. I had an alarm set that would go off every Sunday night, and I would be like, "Oh, okay, I'll take care of that," and then didn't. So the alarm didn't work after the first month. So I turned it off, and now I just keep things very cold so they don't actually spoil. Anyway, when they come out of the oven, you pour some sherry or whatever other alcohol you're using on them, and it's very nice. It smells very good. It sizzles a little bit. You let it cool, and then you mummify it in cheesecloth or muslin. But cheesecloth is, I think, cheaper.
It has a
than muslin.
shroud.
It has a shroud. This is the
Yes.
Bruckner's mummy of cakes.
As long as
Do you
it's not
take out
moldy.
do you take out the internal organs first and put them in
Yeah.
canopic jars?
No, we're not that fancy here. No, you kind of put the internal organs into it before you.
In,
That's
yeah.
true.
Mix it
Oh,
all
it's
up.
so sticky. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so then you put it in. I put it in bags because for a while it was keeping them in like really nice tins, but then the sherry kind of ate the tins.
Oh, wow. That's not
Good
good.
sherry.
Yeah, so I don't do that anymore. Just plastic bags is fine. Martha might be disappointed in me, but whatever. So then you unwrap it. This one is very moist looking because I did pour sherry on it a few days ago after taking it out of the freezer.
Yes.
And then they
Maybe
do
more
ferment a
cakes.
little bit
Yeah.
and get more complex as they go, which is why you're supposed to make this one a month before you plan to eat it to give it time. Not all of them are like that. Some of them are more flavorful right out of the gate.
So it's almost like a baked advent calendar. Like it's
Kind
super
of.
Just pick out one little papaya piece per day until.
Then you slice it very, very thinly because it is incredibly rich and dense.
Wow.
This one also has rum in it. This
Oh
fancy one.
gosh, that looks so good.
See, it's very pretty.
Can you nudge it? Can you nudge it towards the citrus fruit a little bit?
Yeah.
And
There we
towards my mouth.
Make it
please.
harder. I'm left-handed
Yeah.
though, so it makes it a little. Anyway,
Guys, I've actually started drooling a little bit.
so see, it's cold, so it's kind of stiff right now, but
Ooh, it looks
it's pretty
good.
soft. Yeah,
I
it's
wanna
very.
eat that.
I'm gonna eat
It's
it.
so It's so pale. And
So when you
wan.
say the flavor gets more complex and it ferments, does that mean it releases that kind of what is it, the lactic acid, like it gets a little tart? Or does it mean it gets kind of, I'm just trying to picture what this day's like.
We have a
Lainie.
return of Lainie. You're just in time for last year's cake being unveiled and sliced. Look at this. It was in the freezer, don't worry. It wasn't in a crypt. But it was
That's so good.
it was in a crypt.
I'd rather it wasn't a crypt, actually.
It
A
was
freezer is
swathed
like
in
a
muslin.
crypt for food.
It's true.
Yeah. To answer your question, Abigail, it does. The sherry permeates it more, for one thing, so that it soaks into it and helps preserve it. Makes it sweeter than it ordinarily would be. But yeah, as it sits around, it does get not sour exactly, but there's more going on than just sweetness.
Yeah.
Dropped a bit.
Wow.
So that's what I got.
What's the texture like? Is it just more dry and crumbly, or more? Is it still pretty moist?
It's very moist. Oh, there's a alcoholic warmth happening. It's very, very soft. It doesn't hold together incredibly well. But it's very dense. This is not light and airy, and it's not meant to be.
No, yeah. Do you poke yours with skewers so that the alcohol can permeate deeper into it? 'Cause that's what I used to do.
This one I did. I can see the little skewer marks,
Right.
but I don't always, because sometimes I just forget.
Right. I mean, I guess that just means the top is boozier.
Yeah, it does mean that. Anyway, so yeah, this is a fruitcake.
So when they say the upper crust, maybe that's what they mean.
Oh.
Or maybe not.
I feel like I've heard a different etymology for that, but
Yeah,
I like that
probably
one.
not. Yeah. The boozy part. Living
So
large.
good.
So fruitcake.
I love this stuff.
Oh man, yeah.
Fruitcake as a term seems to only date back to 1838, even though the cakes date back way longer. I don't know what they were called before then.
Maybe that just was a cake.
And then it was first used meaning lunatic person in 1952. Or that's our first citation of it. So you can blame the 50s for that. Yeah. Huh. Let's see if I can find one for upper crust.
Yeah, I doubt that's where it's from, but I like it.
Yeah.
Oh. Keep making weird noises. I'm sorry, but this is so good.
Once again, this is always also sort of the proof of concept at the end of Kitchen Party is just how much is Jared enjoying the thing that he just made.
Yeah. This is the part where we all gaze in longing. Just,
The upper crust originally comes from the 15th century and did refer to the top crust of a loaf of bread. And didn't mean the phrase the elite for another 350 years. Until it was first cited in an 1823 dictionary of sports slang from a sports writer. Upper crust, one who lords it over the others, is Mr. Upper Crust. So
I like mine better.
Yeah.
Huh.
Especially because a lot of members of the upper crust were fruitcakes.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Yeah, King George.
Some of these phrases, like, they have a logical origin, but they get picked up and reused because they just sound like upper crust. Whatever it originally meant sounds like someone who is upper crust. It sounds appropriate to the thing that it is trying to convey.
Well, folks, since I'm not upper crust, I'm scared of the data because now I'm on my phone because my internet cut out. So as a solidly middle crust person, I might bid you adieu. But I thank you for this fruitcake journey.
Thank you for joining us on the fruitcake journey. Yeah.
Yeah. If I actually do attempt to make a fruitcake, I will send definitely Jared evidence, but really all of you.
Yes, please.
What? How many did you buy?
We've had a lot of fruitcakes today. No, this is just the bag. I'm putting them in.
Oh, for video filter.
Sophisticated
It's middle crust. Yeah.
Middle crust.
I think let's call it croissant.
People's crust.
I want that recipe. I do think my midway to fruitcake might be a hollow with like candied peel in it.
That'd be really good.
Yeah.
Lainie, while we have you back briefly on your data, is there anything that you want to tell the people about? Anything you want to plug? Let them know about upcoming for you?
Anything I want to plug. I'm gonna have an album eventually if I ever finish editing it, and Yasha's mixing it like a champ. And he begs me to finish editing it every day, and I go, but I could make cookies. So I will edit it, and it will come out. That's called Here I Am. That's hopefully going to come out early next year.
Great.
And Yasha's got an album coming out. It's probably just going to be called Remixes of a piece he wrote called Flash Crash, and I have a remix on the album, and a bunch of awesome people have remixes on the album. So it's an album that's the original piece, and then a bunch of remixes. And I don't know, follow me on Instagram for new fabulous baking adventures.
Is Here I Am the sort of the Torah stories?
Here I Am is the 9 movements of weird and wacky Torah experiences for 10 musicians. Yeah.
10 musicians?
You
got Elijah to show.
Links, so I can put them in that. We'll have show notes when this goes live.
Oh, sure. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, maybe I'll share the Bandcamp profile with you even before it goes public. I'll be like, hey, everyone.
Sneak preview.
Special in the know for Kitchen Party listeners.
You can upload your back catalog too. It's fine.
Aww. Really, what I have coming up is many more, hopefully, in the new year, many more scribble nights, more Pictionary nights with you beautiful folks. Now that my grading is done, I have like one more assignment to grade.
Oh, right on. Okay, yeah.
Because I was Tuesday night grading like a mofo. I missed a bunch of nights with you. But now I can Pictionary forever.
Yay!
Yay! Okay. Well, I guess I'll see the end of this on archive when my internet comes back. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's not that much more to do. So.
That's not that much more.
Yeah, we're wrapping up. So
you can see that Jared's been plunged into the dark.
Bye.
Bye.
So long.
So, Jared, do you think we will get to? Shall we wait for the emergence of this year's cake from the oven, or is it going to be a little bit too long?
There's 2 minutes left on the timer.
Okay.
It's probably not. Oh no, there's 1 minute. It's probably not done, but I will check it and see.
Okay.
And if it seems like it's close, maybe we can wait.
You could show it to us or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't eat it, so it's just the visuals are what's important.
I mean, I could probably send you some of this one, but
oh my goodness.
I don't know about the legality of shipping food across international borders.
I think you can ship fruitcake. I feel like that's something people do.
Yeah, you should be able to.
If you can ship a live lobster or whatever, then
the precision of these cuts is very impressive. I'm not that surprised. Mikey affirms that you can ship fruitcake from other.
He is a lawyer.
Oh, there we go. Just not raw.
Yeah, it's not produce and vegetables and things like that. You can't cross the border with, but you can totally cross the border with prepared food.
Yeah, and I would not call it raw if it's a year old.
Yeah.
And
just watch out for that lemon.
All right. Abigail, is there anything else that you want people to know about that you want to plug? Or
Gosh, I don't know. It's too premature to plug my book because I'm still in the middle of writing the last chapter. So it's going to be some years before it comes out. But I suppose for people who are really interested in the stuff I talked about today, just file it away for 2 or 3 years from now. I posted. And no, apart from that, I've just had a wonderful time talking to all of you.
Yeah.
So,
I was delighted to hear about the mummification and the relics. I knew Jared would be into it as well. So.
It's so much fun to talk about, and it's funny. As you can tell, I have a lot of I always
Okay, hold on. We gotta. Sorry.
Yeah.
no,
Sorry to
this is
interrupt.
more important.
Oh my goodness.
This is not done. This has a while to go yet, but this is
Okay.
roughly what it will look like. So
Okay,
Right.
so we've had a gander at it. It is in
Yeah.
fact becoming fruitcake. So yes.
Had a gander.
We'll have some money shots later.
yes.
Sorry, go on.
Oh no, there's nothing more to say. No, I suppose the only thing is that, I as you can tell, I'm very insistent that there's real good history in there too, and not just sensationalized biographies of creepy objects. But yeah.
I
No,
mean,
it
you
sounds so
enjoyed it.
interesting. I'm so
Yeah.
into
Yeah, Bill, thanks all for taking an interest.
And Chris, what's new and exciting on the Megaphonic network, the Megaphonic media empire that you have built?
Well, Megaphone, we just are about to wrap up an exciting kitchen party holiday episode about fruitcake. Jared's making a fruitcake, and I think that'll sound very exciting. Some musical guests are going to be there, not to play music, but to talk about it, but that's cool too. What else? Game show 1939.
Yeah.
If you like your trivia questions to be from the 1930s. It has season 2 just dropped, and it's a complete delight. I strongly recommend you listen to it if you are at all interested in the idea of a game show where all the questions were written in 1939 or thereabouts. What
Even
else?
if you're not, it's fabulous. I mean,
It's
it's
tremendous
so
fun.
funny.
Someone
is.
referred to it as like a Wes Anderson movie, but more comprehensible, which is weirdly apt, I think. And of course,
I mean,
lots
it's
of
probably obvious, but if anyone wants the URL where you can find all
Indeed.
the fancy little shows.
and lots of streaming and so forth is happening. New episodes of some of my podcasts, my bookish podcast about the Spoutery Inn will be coming out. A new episode will be. We're recording it tomorrow. It'll be out soon enough. And then other stuff happening too. And then otherwise, you can find my crosswords here. Yep, Mikey's spending the rest of the night editing the next By the Bywater. He's got a lot to get through.
In case anyone doesn't know what
Yeah.
By the Bywater is, who on this screen right now could inform them of that information?
I mean, I can inform.
Tolkien
I think
podcast.
many of us could
By
do
the
that.
Bywater. Yeah.
Um,
Of which I am one host.
yes, the next episode may or may not be out on Monday. Let's just put it that way.
We are talking about the Fellowship of the Ring movie adaptation, which came out 20 years ago this very month.
That is a trip.
Yeah. We had a lot to say.
Wow.
And what else? I also the crossword thing, that the Kickstarter that's happening. Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah. How
happening.
often? When do you play crosswords on this here channel? When people
Lately, I typically have just been doing Tuesdays at noon, but keep an eye. Just follow Twitch or keep an eye on me on Twitter at WordGarbler, and you'll find notifications for when that's happening. I'd like to get back to doing it more regularly, but what with the Kickstarter, holiday stuff, and just trying to get through editing Game Show 1939, it's been a real busy month, and I have been doing it a lot less often than I would like to. What else? I don't have any new music out. You can still go to themesquad.bandcamp.com and you can listen to the rest of that album, which has some bird calls on it. It's called The Key to All Mythologies. It's about
Middlemarch.
yeah, it's a Middlemarch reference. It was attempting to make much like in Middlemarch, my making it a full album didn't happen, so it's EP length. Not managed to finish the entire album.
So is that a play on Casaubon and Audubon?
No, but that's good. I hadn't thought about that. No, they don't all have bird sounds in them, but I think it's a lot of fun. People seem to like it, at least the first track. And here, I'll show you. Here. Oh, well, Jared will show you.
I can do the arrow of one direction.
It's great.
And I thought I was going to put out more music this year, but I haven't yet. But maybe that came out.
You still got
January.
time.
God, yes, I still have time. I could really huff it. And I also do most of the music for the network. So
That's right. And a lot of that, the Theme Squad was kind of within the Theme Squad kind of wasn't its genesis as theme music for Megaphonic shows, or am I thinking of? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's sort of what it started, and then I started playing. We could One of these weekends, not this weekend. And then it became a space for, because I had always done like indie rock music before, but I wanted to try working on specifically instrumental music.
I'm so excited.
and really think about what that means. So I've also been using it for that purpose.
Okay. Cool.
Because melody, some people like it. What if I tried it? Anyway, megaphonic.fm, chrispuma.com, links,
all that stuff.
fruitcakesgalore.com.
It's right. Yes, and you can find fruitcake wherever you get fancy in your local bougie bakery or supermarket, I'm sure. I think this brings us to the end of another fun and exciting kitchen party. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed
Thank
this
you
very
for
much.
having me.
And thanks everyone for watching at home and commenting. And I hope you are all I'll find and enjoy the fruitcake that you please, or or don't if you're the fruitcake haters, which I don't understand it, but no one's gonna force you.
They're out there. It's fine.
It's
Haters
right.
gonna hate.
Haters gonna
I have converted former fruitcake haters.
As
It's
long as they've
possible you just
tried
haven't
it,
tried the
and
right
it's-
fruitcake.
as long as you're not basing it off 1980s Carson show.
Yeah,
Yes.
or like a fruitcake that you got at Shoppers Drug Mart when it was 50% off. That's not. Yeah, you gotta have the good fruitcake. But anyway, we are gonna end the broadcast. So have a good evening, afternoon or lunch, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in. See you probably in 2022. Bye.
Yay.